So you got ADHD and you are terrible when it comes to time management skills, and your executive functioning skills just suck. And you're like, how can I get better with my time management skills, especially when I have ADHD and I get distracted all the time? Well, I'm going to tell you about how I do it with my ADHD, what has helped really me be more efficient with my time management. So let's talk about that right after this intro. Welcome back, my optimal mind. I'm Dr. LeGrand, and I have ADHD and dyslexia, and I'm going to tell you about specifically how can you get better with your time management skills, especially with people who have ADHD. We get distracted really easily, and it can be really difficult for us to be very good with our time management, especially when it comes with executive functioning skills. So I'm going to be talking about different series of different executive functioning skills that you can implement with ADHD mind. And today we're going to talk about specifically time management, because that is something with an executive functioning dysfunction that we can have with time management. So the very first thing, so we're going to talk about three things that you really should implement when it comes to being really good and efficient with your time management. The very first thing is you have to eliminate distractions altogether. So you probably know this, with distractions, especially with us with ADHD, we're very highly sensitive to sounds, to anything that can distract us. Whenever we're distracted, anytime we are trying to focus on doing something specifically and we get distracted, it could take us 20 minutes to get back into it. And that really can deplete our time. And therefore, our time management skills really do suffer. So for example, if you're at school, in college, or you're a parent that has a kid that has an issue with this, whenever you're trying to focus on finishing a project or an assignment or anything, all distractions have to be eliminated. You need to be in more of a quiet room. You got to eliminate the phone distractions, turn off all the notifications. If you have to throw your phone in a different room, then do so. Now, if it's work, so this could be a work environment. So let's say there's a fan right next to your cubicle, wherever you're working, and there's a distraction. It is in your best interest and your boss's best interest to have this discussion with them. Say, hey, look, I have ADHD and, I can be really good and focus, but if I have any distractions, it's going to really mess up with my time management, and maybe having you move into a different position where it's not as distracting. So that is the first thing that you need to do, because the thing is with distractions, not only does it, anytime that you're distracted, that it takes you 20 minutes to get back into the momentum again, the other problem is it also depletes your willpower at a more significant, rapid rate. And I've talked about willpower, and that you could watch that video. I've already talked about that on this channel. But basically, the concept is every time you get distracted, it depletes your willpower meter. And the more distractions you're having before midday even hits, you could have no willpower, therefore no motivation to even do the task in the first place. So that's the very first thing, is eliminate distractions all possible, okay? The second thing is looking at Parkinsons Law. So Parkinsons Law is basically the time you give something, that you allot to, is basically going to fill that time up. So for example, if you have a paper that you need to write or a project that you need to do for work, and let's say you give yourselves 2 weeks, when really ultimately it could be done like in 2 days or maybe even a day. You're actually going to fill up that time with useless stuff to be able to finish it. It's going to take you 2 weeks when it could have taken you just a day or 2 days. That's the concept of Parkinson's Law. So whatever you're trying to accomplish, and especially when you're trying to do your time management, and whether you use a planner or something like that, you give yourself time increments of how much time this actually is going to take you. Because if you say, okay, I'm going to write this paper in 2 hours, because you're like, okay, it should only take me 2 hours. Block that time out with no distractions and give yourself just those 2 hours. It's magical what the brain does when you actually give it that kind of space of time. Now, what I will say a step further with people with ADHD, we have to break it in small chunks. In fact, you'll have to kind of practice with yourself what works best for you. For me, I usually put things in 30-minute increments, but for some people, you need to put it in 15-minute increments. So let's say the project is going to take you an hour. Break it down in 15-minute chunks. So that's going to be 4 different segments. So let's say it is just write the very first page, very first paper, the first 2 pages of that paper. So maybe the first 15 increments is like, okay, come up with the title. Then the next 15 increments, start with the intro, be able to write the intro of the paper. And then the next 15 increments, write the second paragraph and so on and so on. So you get the picture. When you do this, this can really, really help you start making it more easier for your brain to register and not make it look so daunting when you put it in 15-minute increments. And therefore, you're more efficient with your time and your time management. Okay, so that's something you have to kind of start breaking down. The other thing that you can do, and I probably recommend doing this maybe at first, but then probably after doing it for a while, you don't necessarily need to do this, is actually put an alarm. Set up several different alarms on your phone. Now, if you're going to do this on your phone, you need to eliminate all your notifications. So turn off all your notifications. So the only notification you're going to get is an alarm. So it could be a 15-minute alarm. So every 15 minutes, it goes. This will help your brain register, I got 15 minutes to finish this section. And trust me, your brain will be focused. It will be more creative because, again, it goes back to the Parkinsons Law. So by doing that, I wouldn't recommend doing this for too long. I think eventually your brain starts to register when you start breaking things down in 15 or 30-minute increments. It starts to be able to get used to that. Okay. So the last and final thing that I'm going to say that is really important when it comes to time management, especially with people with ADHD, is to not put more on your plate than you can actually chew. Okay. So what I mean by this is a lot of times people will get a task list and put several different tasks. They'll put 10, 15 different tasks that they need to finish that day. And lo and behold, what happens is you only probably finish maybe 5 of those. And then that becomes very depressing because you're like, oh, I only finished maybe 1 or 2 of these or 5 of these out of the 15 or 20 that I put down. That is way too much. What I want you to do is what's really more efficient is try to pick three things that are the most important things to get done that day and do it at the beginning of the day. So again, this goes back to being more efficient with your time is get the most important stuff done at the beginning of the day because that is when your willpower is the highest. And you could be more efficient at the beginning of the day versus in the middle of the day or even towards the end of the day when you're just completely burned out. You have no willpower or motivation to finish or accomplish things. Okay, so those are the 3 things that I think are really, really important for you to be more efficient with your time, especially having an ADHD brain. But if you are trying to have a more focused and sharp mind and are looking for ways to do that, well, I have a free training going over my proprietary process helping people with ADHD or a focused and unattentive mind. And that is in the description below. And this is also for parents who have kids with ADHD that can watch this training. So hope you guys got value out of today's video. And until next time, remember, you have an awful mind. Thanks. Bye.